You are most welcome to this video. Now, it looks like we're getting somewhere with the science of the new rubbery white blood clots that first reared their ugly heads in 2021, as far as we know. We couldn't find any records of them before that. Perhaps a few in 2020, but basically the pandemic of these things started in 2021. Now, I'm not going to be showing pictures on this. Now, this information has come from reputable sources here. This is the New Zealand doctors' site. This is their press release. Breaking research decodes the mystery of the rubbery white clots. Now, of course, that's quite a bold claim, so we need the evidence, and we do have the evidence here. It's in the form of 3 papers. This is the first paper here. Morphological and histological characteristics of anomalous intravascular casts. Second paper here. Elemental characterization, so this is about the chemistry, the makeup of them, of anomalous intravascular casts, reveals an abnormal biochemical matrix. And as we'll see, there are some rather strange features of the chemistry of it that make it difficult to explain, although they do put forward some good hypotheses on that. And the third paper is here, proteomic characterization. Of course, proteomics is the protein that it's made up of. Proteomic characterization of anomalous intravascular casts reveals non-kinetical fibrin architecture and impaired fibrinolysis. What this means is non-kinetical basically means it's not in the canon of knowledge. This is new. This is not in the recognised pathology textbooks. And so here's the paper that we've seen from the New Zealand doctors, and that's the direct reference for that. It's available in the public domain. I have been following this story for some time now, and I agree this is the first full characterization that I've seen. In fact, the silence from the pathological and medical journals around the world on this has been quite deafening. Why aren't they talking about this strange new phenomena and racing to characterize it? It really is quite bizarre. It's almost as if it's been edited out of the mainstream medical journals. Anyway, let's carry on with what they've got here. Commonly reported by embalmers worldwide as strange rubbery white clots. Now, this is consistent with all the embalmers I've talked to, and the pathologists. I've talked to doctors and pathologists about this as well, some professors of medicine about this. And they haven't seen these before. These are not normal perimortem clots. These are something new. Global reports from embalmers and some clinicians have described the retrieval of long, elastic, white fibrous structures from blood vessels, distinct from ordinary post-mortem clots. The embalmers who've been doing this for decades tell us this is something new. They're used to what they call, I think it's chicken clots, they call them like blood clots. They're not like that. These are white and they're rubbery and they have tensile strength. This is something new. Now, it's a new 3-part study using international labs on 3 continents. Sounds good. Sounds good. Describes the structure, elemental composition and protein makeup, concluding they represent a novel and persistent pathological entity. Now, Major Tom Haviland did give us some data on the prevalence of these clots from the limited amount of survey data we could get, but it did about have hundreds of data points. And it looks like these clots are getting slightly less common, but they are still there. And there's something that's really frightening I'm going to tell you about in a minute as well, that they're still presenting as a ongoing phenomena, albeit with a lower prevalence or incidence than they had. Now, key findings of the trilogy. This is just the outline we're going to give here. Morphology and histology. So what's the shape, what's the tissue? That's the link there for the paper. Establish that the anomalous intravascular clots are not ordinary clots. They are elastic, lumen conforming. In other words, they're structures that form under active blood flow. Now, this is shown partly by lines of Zahn. Now, they are strikingly devoid of intact red blood cells and platelets. Of course, ordinary blood clots are very rich in red cells and platelets. Their rubbery-like consistency and cohesive strength, in other words, they're hard to pull apart, are incompatible with known pre- and post-mortem changes. Now, these lines of Zan that they show are characteristic of thrombus formed at the site of rapid arterial blood flow. So they're formed when the blood is still flowing, with laminations produced by successive, therefore by definition the person was still alive. Therefore these clots may have been the cause of death in many of these individuals, or at least some of these individuals, in which these clots... Anyway, the second paper, Elemental Analysis, reveals that the clots have a bizarre chemical fingerprint. They are depleted in depleted in sulfur, a key marker of protein, and enriched in phosphorus. So what this means is proteins commonly contain sulfur, of course, but not so much phosphorus. So they don't have a huge amount of protein, but they do have a lot of phosphorus, which is rather strange. Again, rather difficult to explain. So fibrinogen is produced in the liver. It's in solution in the blood. When it precipitates out, the fibrinogen becomes these strands, this sticky material. In teaching students, I said it was like pussy willow. I don't know if you have that in the States, but it's a strand of sticky stuff that we put on each other's clothes in summer, and it kind of sticks. It's unusual fibrin. It's an abnormal fibrin, not what we would expect. Critically, they are almost completely lacking in plasminogen. The enzyme required, just the background here is that plasminogen is normally in solution in the plasma. When there's a blood clot, that's converted to plasmin. The plasmin is an enzyme which breaks down the blood clot. But because these don't have the plasminogen, they don't have the plasmin, therefore the clots are not broken down. So we're getting these clots forming, but the normal mechanisms in the body that break these clots down are absent. Therefore, of course, the clots aren't broken down, explaining their stubborn persistence. The protein profile also shows signs of inflammatory and immune system involvement. So there's inflammation going on here, and it looks like it's got something to do with immunity. There's an abnormality of immunity going on here as well. At least that's what these analyses would indicate. As well as red cell destruction. The profound deficiency in plasminogen is like building a structure impervious to its future demolition. So there's no designed to persist, or it persists. The elemental data confirms it's not just protein, it's a hybrid material our bodies are forced to make, but not equipped to clear. This holds a significant health implication. The researchers note that the formation of such persistent obstructing material in blood vessels, particularly if in the microvasculature, will lead to chronic oxygen lack, organ damage, pain, exhaustion, and cascades of inflammatory pathology. And of course, if they're big, it's inconsistent with life because it's going to block off the circulatory system. Again, and of course, I would add it might make it so that some people are no longer with us anymore. Anyway, just to conclude, the author's call for urgent action and investigation. The paper highlights the COVID injections as a crucial research direction. So this is something that and urge the global medical community to take these findings seriously. There's loads of channels have sprung up that are cloning me now, these AI things. And you can tell that it's my channel because it's got 3.3 million subscribers. If it's got 200 subscribers, it's not me. And if you see me on Facebook, that's not me either.